In the cold corners of space, there was a station that floated quietly above a burning planet. It was called Station Ralvek, a place where warlords, smugglers, and travelers came and went. There were rules, but no one really followed them. Power was everything. And humans were not powerful. On this station there was a human man. People didn't even know his real name. They just called him Dust, because to them, he was like dust on the floor. Easy to ignore, easy to step on. He worked as a repairman, fixed lights, tightened loose panels, cleaned systems no one else wanted to touch. He didn't talk much, didn't cause trouble. And so, no one cared about him. But Dust watched everything. He watched how the station guards changed every third cycle. He watched how the smugglers came with hidden weapons. He saw the silent hand signs used by spies. And most importantly, he listened. He knew where every sound came from, where every wire connected, and which door opened with which code. One day, everything changed. 2 alien warladies arrived at the station. They came in separate ships, each followed by strong guards and banners of war. One was called Jarek of the Crimson Suns, with red armor that shimmered like fire. Her voice was deep and sharp. The other was Thalara of the Void Claws, tall and silent, her black armor filled with glowing marks of victory. They were famous across the stars. Their names made enemies afraid. Even the station commander stood straight when they walked past. Dust was in the hallway when they passed by. He was fixing a loose panel. They didn't even glance at him. Just like everyone else. Later that day, Dust stood alone in a maintenance room looking at the security screen. He had connected it secretly to his toolkit. On the screen, he saw the Warladies enter a private meeting hall, one that wasn't safe anymore. Dust narrowed his eyes. Something was wrong. The room had been rewired recently, but not by station staff. He checked the energy flow. There was too much heat near the wall. Someone had hidden a plasma charge. And not just one. 5. He dropped his tools and ran. At the entrance of the hall, 2 alien guards stopped him. "You are not allowed here, human," one said. "There's a bomb in that room," Dust said calmly. "More than one." They laughed. One even pushed him back. "Why would we believe a cleaner?" Inside, Jarek and Thalara argued over territory. Their voices were loud, their guards tense. They didn't hear the soft beep-beep of hidden bombs under the table. Dust didn't wait. He pulled a power cable from the wall, stripped it fast and shoved it into the emergency control box. The lights blinked. Doors sealed. Warning lights flashed. Inside the hall, everyone jumped to their feet. "What is this?" Jarek shouted. An alarm blared. The bombs began to power up. Dust used a code he had learned months ago from a drunken technician. He overloaded the floor's energy grid. The charge hit the hidden bombs before they could detonate. They sparked, hissed, and failed. Dust's face was blank as he stood outside waiting. The doors opened, smoke poured out. Guards ran in. The Warladies came out slowly, coughing and confused. Dust stood silently. Thalara looked at him with narrow eyes. "What did you do?" "I saved your lives," he said. Jarek stepped forward. "How did you know?" "I listen," Dust said simply. Then he picked up his toolkit, turned, and walked away. Everyone watched him leave. He didn't look back. After the near explosion, the whole station was buzzing with whispers. "Did you hear? A human saved the Warladies." "Dust? That useless guy?" "No one's useless if they can stop a bomb." Dust didn't care about the talk. He returned to his small room in the lower decks. It was dark, quiet, and full of tools and wires. He sat at his desk, cleaned his hands, and opened a broken panel he'd been working on before the chaos. For him, it was just another day. He didn't expect thanks. He didn't want attention, but attention came anyway. 2 guards in red armor showed up outside his room the next morning. They stood tall, serious, and their weapons hummed with energy. One of them knocked. "Jarek of the Crimson Suns requests," Your presence. Dust looked up from his work. Why? She has questions. Dust stood, wiped his hands, and followed them without a word. In a high chamber lit by glowing red lights, Gerak waited. She had removed her helmet, revealing sharp eyes and battle scars across her cheeks. Her stare was strong enough to make trained soldiers nervous, but Dust only nodded. You knew about the bombs, she said. Yes. You acted without permission. Yes. You saved my life. Dust didn't answer that. Gerak leaned forward. Who are you, really? Just a mechanic. She didn't believe him. Where did you learn to read power lines that fast? Or how to overload a grid without causing a station-wide shutdown? I fix things, Dust said. I notice patterns, that's all. Gerak stood and walked in a circle around him. Do you know how many people watched you on the security feed? You were calm, colder than most warriors during a fight. Dust's face didn't change. Fear doesn't help when things break. Gerak gave a short laugh, then tossed him a small, metal cube. This is a Crimson Sun's badge. You are now under our protection. I don't need protection, Dust said. But you'll have it anyway, she replied. An hour later, 2 more guards arrived, this time with black armor and a different emblem. They were Thalara's soldiers. Thalara of the Void Claws. Also request your time. Dust raised an eyebrow. Both in one day? The guard didn't respond. Dust sighed and followed. Thalara's room was darker. The walls were covered in star maps and silence filled the air. She stood alone, her long black cape hanging from her shoulders, glowing softly in parts. Her eyes were colder than space itself, but when she looked at Dust, something softened. You didn't run, she said, even with bombs ready to kill you. Dust nodded. Running wouldn't have helped. You saved me. I didn't do it for you, he replied. I did it because no one else was going to stop it. Thalara didn't smile, but her voice grew less sharp. Do you know how rare that is? A being who acts without needing reward? I don't like explosions, Dust said. She actually let out a quiet breath, maybe her version of a laugh. You are strange, human. I hear that a lot. Thalara walked over and handed him a black crystal. This is a Void Claws signet. It marks you as one of ours. Dust looked at the crystal, then at her. And if I already got one from Gerak? Keep both, she said. Let her fight me for you. Dust blinked, unsure if she was serious or not. He left without a word. Back in his room, Dust placed both tokens on his shelf. 1 red cube, 1 black crystal, 2 symbols of power, 2 offers of protection. He stared at them for a long moment. He didn't like being the center of attention, but something told him things were about to get worse. Later that night, he was walking alone through the lower halls when he heard soft footsteps behind him. He turned and saw both Gerak and Thalara in the same corridor, facing each other. They weren't smiling, and Dust knew right away. This was not about protection anymore. This was a beginning. Dust stood still in the hallway. The lights flickered above, casting shadows on the 2 powerful warladies. Gerak stood on the left, her red armor shining like fire. Thalara stood on the right, silent and cold like the stars outside. Both stared at each other, but it was clear their focus was now on him. Neither spoke. The silence was thick. I didn't ask for this, Dust said finally. You didn't need to, Gerak answered. We saw enough, Thalara added. Then, without another word, they turned and walked away, each in a different direction, leaving Dust alone again. In the days that followed, everything on the station changed. Guards from both the Crimson Suns and the Void Claws now patrolled the halls. Wherever Dust went, someone followed, sometimes in red, sometimes in black. They said it was to protect him, but it felt more like watching. He couldn't eat in peace, couldn't fix a pipe without eyes on him. Some station workers started treating him differently too. Need help, Dust? One alien said, suddenly polite. Sir Dust? Another joked, half afraid, half confused. Dust didn't enjoy it. He just wanted to return to normal, but deep inside, he knew that would never happen now. Meanwhile, both Jarek and Thalara started asking questions. Jarek called in old contacts. She searched military records, secret files, and battlefield reports from past human wars. She found something strange. A human officer known only by the codename Ghost. A man who planned missions so well, battles ended before they even began. But all records of Ghost stopped 5 years ago. Just disappeared. She stared at the image she found. Blurry, face hard to see. But the eyes, they were the same. Thalara used a different method. She sent her best shadow agents to follow Dust, without him knowing. They watched him fix power nodes, help injured workers, and even rescue a child from a collapsing hallway. Every time he acted calmly, never asking for thanks. One report from an agent said, "The human sees all, acts only when needed. I believe he has chosen silence as his shield." That line stayed in Thalara's mind for a long time. One night, Dust sat alone in the mechanical bay, staring at a broken power core. He liked the quiet here. Machines didn't lie. They only broke or worked. Simple. Suddenly, a voice echoed behind him. "You repaired the station more than anyone, yet they never promoted you." It was Jarek. "I didn't want promotion," Dust said. "You could have been more." Dust shrugged. "More attention means more danger." Jarek stepped closer. "You saved me. I do not forget such things." He looked at her. "I didn't do it for reward." "I know, that's why I'm here." She placed a small device beside him. "This is a Crimson Sun's command token. It gives you access to any level of the station. Use it when you're in danger, or if you ever want more than this quiet life." Then she left. The very next evening, Thalara appeared, just as quiet, just as serious. "I've been watching," she said, standing behind him. "You helped one of my guards fix a life support pipe. He didn't even thank you." "He didn't need to," Dust replied. "You act without needing praise. That is rare." Thalara stepped beside him and placed something next to the token Jarek left, a black ring. "This marks you as my personal guest. No void clause will ever harm you, ever." Dust sighed. "I don't want gifts. I want peace." "You may not have a choice anymore," she said softly, then walked away. Dust looked at both items in front of him, a command token, a protection ring, 2 symbols, 2 paths, 2 Warladies. He leaned back in his chair, eyes half closed. They were both watching him now, but what none of them knew was that Dust had his own reason for being on this station. He hadn't just come, here to fix pipes and hide. He was waiting, watching, preparing. Something big was coming. He could feel it. And now, the Warladies were part of it, whether they knew it or not. The station floated quietly above the burning planet, but inside everything was changing. Dust still wore the same old uniform and carried the same rusty toolkit, but now, the most powerful people on the station knew his name. Jarek and Thalara. The 2 feared Warladies had both taken interest in him, but it was not just because he saved them from the bomb. It was something more, something they didn't understand yet, and that made them curious. Jarek sat inside her command ship, surrounded by battle maps. Her officers gave her reports, but her mind was focused elsewhere. She had seen humans fight before. She had crushed human soldiers in past battles, but Dust didn't act like a fighter, or even a survivor. He acted like someone who had seen everything already. She opened a secret military file, one she wasn't supposed to have. It was about a human tactical unit called Silent Rain, a team that ended wars without firing a shot. The leader was known only as Ghost. All missions were perfect, no losses, no mistakes. Then one day the whole unit vanished. She zoomed in on one blurry photo of Ghost. The man was standing in the shadows, eyes sharp, face half covered. But those eyes... Jarek leaned closer. She had seen those eyes before. Calm, focused, and cold when needed. She whispered, "Dust. Is that you?" On the other side of the station, Thalara was also searching, but her way was different. She believed in feeling people's truth, not just reading files. So she sent someone Dust had helped years ago, a young medic named Varel from the planet Yorel. She remembered a raid where many civilians were caught in the crossfire, and she remembered a human who saved children trapped under rubble, then disappeared before anyone could thank him. Varel arrived on the station and saw Dust walking through the cargo bay. "That's him," she said softly. "That's the one who saved us." Thalara's eyes narrowed. "You're sure?" "He pulled a beam off my brother, risked being shot. Didn't even say his name." Thalara nodded. She didn't need proof anymore. "Prepare the gift," she said. "Something he cannot ignore." Dust returned to his room that night and found something strange on his workbench. A small black box with golden edges. He opened it slowly. Inside was a folded piece of cloth, a symbol of peace from the Yorel people. Alongside it, a crystal memory chip. He plugged it in. A recording played. A small boy's voice said, "You saved me. Thank you, human." Then a woman's voice, "We never knew your name, but we never forgot you." Dust closed the chip and stared at the wall. He remembered that day. The fire, the screams, the choice to help, even when his own mission had told him to leave. It was the last time he wore the uniform. Since then, he had become Dust. But now, his past was finding him again. Later, he walked into the common deck where a few crew members were eating. The noise stopped when he entered. People whispered. Some stood to give him space. Others lowered their heads. Not in fear, but in respect. He sat alone at a table, but he wasn't alone for long. Jirak sat beside him without asking. Thalara arrived moments later, quiet as always. The two Warladies looked at each other. Jirak spoke first. "I know who you were." Thalara nodded. "I know who you are." Dust looked at them both. "Then you know I'm not your tool." "You saved lives before," Thalara said. "You can save more now. You changed the course of battle." Jirak added, "You can do it again." Dust shook his head. "I didn't come here for war. I came to disappear." Jirak leaned forward. "But war is coming to you, Dust." He paused. "I know." He stood and looked out the station window. In the distance, new ships arrived, not friendly ones. Heavy, silent, and painted with the mark of the Oran Syndicate, a dangerous group that hated both humans and aliens alike. Dust whispered to himself, "It's starting." Behind him, the Warladies stood. Neither one would leave now, because they both knew. Dust wasn't just a human anymore. He was a key, and everyone wanted to hold it. Dust walked through the quiet halls of the station, but it didn't feel like the same place anymore. The air was heavier. The looks people gave him were different, some full of respect, others full of fear, and some filled with greed. News had spread across nearby systems. A human named Dust had saved two powerful Warladies. He had gained not just their respect, but their protection. In a galaxy ruled by power and fear, this kind of attention brought danger. Very dangerous people had started to take notice. In the far reaches of the galaxy, a message was sent in secret. Target human male goes by the name Dust. Location, Station Ralvek. Reward, 500,000 credits, dead or alive. The bounty was placed by the Oran Syndicate, a group known for hunting leaders, spies, and war heroes. They believed Dust had something valuable, or knew something he shouldn't. And if both Jirak and Thalara were guarding him, then killing him would hurt them both. Within hours, bounty hunters began to arrive on the station, disguised as traders, workers, even medics. But their eyes watched only one person, Dust. Dust noticed the change immediately. He saw it in the way strangers stood near him too long, the way doors opened too slowly, the way machines that never broke suddenly had errors. One evening, while walking through the cargo area, he saw a shadow move behind the crates. He stopped. The shadow stopped too. He picked up a small metal pipe and moved quietly. The moment the attacker jumped out, Dust spun and knocked the weapon out of their hand. With 2 quick moves, he kicked the attacker down and held the pipe to their throat. The attacker froze. A lizard-like alien with sharp teeth and a black tattoo on its neck. Dust sighed. The bounty already started, huh? He let the attacker go. Run, Dust said, and don't come back. Later that day, Zerak stormed into the command center. You were attacked, she growled. Dust nodded. Didn't get far. Should have left my guards at your door. I don't want to live in a cage, he replied calmly. You'll be dead if we don't act. Dust raised an eyebrow. Then act. Zerak stared at him. She knew he wasn't afraid. That made her more protective and more frustrated. At the same time, Thalara stood in her own chamber, reading data reports. 7 bounty hunters. All failed. 1 escaped. Her second-in-command asked, Shall we capture the next ones? No, Thalara said. Let them try. Let Dust show them who he is. The officer frowned. You're using him as bait? No, she said, her voice soft. He's not the bait, he's the storm. In the following days, the station felt like it was ready to burst. Guards from both Warlady clans stood at every hallway. Regular travelers avoided Dust completely. He still worked, still fixed things, but now he carried a small device at his side. A tool? A weapon? No one knew. And then, it happened. A group of syndicate assassins entered the station pretending to be diplomats. They walked right into the center ring, where Dust was helping repair a broken power unit. They drew their weapons fast, ready to end it. But Dust moved faster. With one swift motion, he ducked, rolled, and pressed a hidden switch under the power unit. The floor around him lit up blue, an energy trap he had quietly built into the station days ago. The attackers were trapped mid-jump, frozen in electric light. Zerak and Thalara arrived at the same time, guards at their sides, weapons drawn. Too late. Dust stood calmly. Handled. Zerak stared at him. You expected this? Dust nodded. I always do. Thalara stepped forward. How long have you been preparing? Dust looked at her. Since I saw the syndicate ships, maybe before that. That night the 2 Warladies met alone in the war chamber. For once they didn't argue. He's more than we thought, Zerak said quietly. He's more than he wants to be, Thalara replied. They both looked at the screen showing Dust, sitting alone in the machine bay, polishing his tools. A simple, human, calm, quiet. And now the most hunted man in the sector. Zerak whispered. He's not Dust anymore. Thalara agreed. He's the match, and the fire is coming. Station Ralvek had never been so tense. The hallways were quiet but not peaceful. Whispers filled every corner. People walked carefully, spoke softly, and avoided eye contact. 2 powerful Warladies, Zerak of the Crimson Suns and Thalara of the Void Claws, were not just guests anymore, they were rivals, and both were fighting for one thing, Dust. Not with armies, not with weapons. Not yet, but everyone knew something was coming. Dust sat on the edge of the upper deck, staring out at the stars. He had stopped fixing machines. There was nothing wrong with them. The station was running better than ever, because no one wanted to upset the man both Warladies were watching. He let out a slow breath. Peace didn't last long in space. Behind him, heavy footsteps echoed. It was Zerak. You're quiet today, she said. I'm thinking, Dust replied. About me? Or, Dust gave a small smile. About the next problem. There's always one. Zerak stepped closer. I like that about you. You see the danger before it comes. You don't run. You face it. I don't fight unless I have to. Zerak nodded. Then this may upset you. Dust turned. What? I challenged Thalara to a duel. He froze. You what? I told her the station isn't big enough for both of us. And it's not. Dust stood up. You're risking war. Zerak looked him in the eye. No, I'm ending the tension. The old way. One-on-one. No armies. No bloodshed beyond us. Dust didn't speak. Jarak added, "The winner decides what happens to you." Hours later, Dust stood in the center ring of the station. The lights above flickered slowly. Around him, a crowd had gathered. Guards, traders, workers, even pirates. Everyone had come to see the duel. Not because of who was fighting, but because of why. On one side stood Jarak, red armor glowing under the lights. On the other stood Thalara, her black blade silent in her hand. They faced each other without speaking. Dust stood off to the side, arms crossed, expression tight. "I told you not to do this," he said once more. Neither of them answered. The signal sounded. The duel began. Jarak charged first, her sword swinging hard. Thalara dodged with grace, countering with quick, sharp strikes. Their movements were like lightning and thunder, one powerful and loud, the other cold and fast. Sparks flew as blades clashed. Every hit sent shockwaves through the air. Dust didn't move. He watched every second, every breath, his hands clenched, tightly. Both Warladies were elite fighters. Their styles were different, but their goals were the same. To win. To claim the right to decide what happens to Dust. Minutes passed. Wounds opened. Blood dripped. Still, neither gave up. Then, it happened. Thalara slipped. Jarak struck hard, knocking her blade aside. With one last swing, she sent Thalara crashing to the floor. The ring went silent. Jarak stood over her rival, weapon raised. But she didn't strike. Instead, she looked at Dust. "Your future is yours," she said. Then she turned to Thalara and held out her hand. Thalara, breathing heavily, stared at it, then slowly took it and stood. Dust walked into the center. "You didn't have to fight," Jarak replied. "I did, because I respect her. And you." Thalara added, "Now, there's no more question between us." Dust looked at them both. "So what happens now?" Jarak smiled slightly. "Now you choose." Dust paused, then said, "I choose the station. I choose peace. If you want to help me, then protect this place. Not for me, for everyone here." The Warladies looked at each other, then nodded. That night, Dust sat alone again in the machine bay. The duel was over. The tension had eased, but his thoughts were not at rest. Out in space, the Oran Syndicate still watched, still planned, still waited. He had survived today. But tomorrow? Dust didn't know. But one thing was certain now. He was no longer just a name. He was a choice. And the galaxy had its eyes on him. The duel was over. The blood had dried. And the station, for the first time in weeks, felt calm. But peace on the surface didn't mean safety. Dust knew that well. He had seen it during old missions, in quiet cities that fell in a single night. He had seen it in the eyes of leaders smiling before war. He sat at his usual bench in the machine bay, repairing a cracked energy fuse. His hands moved slowly, but his mind raced ahead. Something was coming, and it wasn't just a feeling anymore. The Oran Syndicate had stayed quiet after their failed attack. Too quiet. In a dark corner of space far from Station Ralvik, a massive Syndicate warship powered up. It was silent, cloaked, but heading straight toward the station. They weren't sending bounty hunters this time. They were sending an army. Back. At the station, Dust was already working. He moved from deck to deck, checking systems, sealing doors, rewiring energy routes. Workers and guards tried to help, but most just watched in awe. He worked with speed but never rushed, with focus but no panic. Jarak found him near the central power core. "We should evacuate," she said, "or prepare the fighters." "No," Dust replied. "That's what they expect. I have a better idea." Thalara joined them. "You're planning something." Dust looked at them both. "I've been planning for weeks." He opened a panel and pulled out a hidden device, built from station scraps and old tech, a pulse jammer strong enough to blind enemy sensors for 60 seconds. Jarak raised an eyebrow. "That's not long." "It's enough," Dust said. As the Syndicate ship reached the edge of sensor range, alarms went off. The station turned red. Shields were raised. Weapons powered up. Everyone waited. Dust stood at the command panel. Calm, Gerak and Thalara stood behind him, silent but ready. Now, Dust whispered. He activated the jammer. The Syndicate ship blinked off radar. In that exact second, Dust rerouted all power from weapons to engines, giving the station one brief burst of speed. The entire station shifted, moving just enough to confuse the attacker's aim. Then Dust cut power to outer panels, making the station look like it had shut down completely. The Syndicate fired, missed, and in the dark, Dust sent a secret signal to 3 nearby mining ships he had quietly armed and positioned days ago. They attacked. The Syndicate ship was caught off guard. Explosions lit the sky. The battle was short, but powerful. Dust had turned a floating trade station into a trap, and the Syndicate walked right into it. When the last enemy ship fled into the void, the crew of Station Ralvek cheered. People ran into the halls laughing, hugging, crying. They had survived because of one man. Later, Dust stood alone on the observation deck looking out at the stars. Gerak walked in. You saved us. Thalara followed. You outsmarted the Syndicate, with broken machines and scraps. Dust gave a small smile. I used what I had. Gerak said, I called you Dust once, because you were quiet, hidden, like something forgotten. But dust doesn't move stars, Thalara added. You did. They both stepped forward. Gerak placed her blade down. You've earned your place among the Crimson Suns. Thalara placed her ring beside it. And the void claws. Dust looked at the symbols, then at the stars. I never wanted a title, he said softly. Just peace. And you've given it, Gerak said. To all of us. He turned to leave. What will you do now? Thalara asked. Dust paused. Fix things. That's what I do. As he walked through the station, people nodded at him, smiled, saluted. Children followed him, eyes wide. No one called him Dust anymore. They called him Commander, Builder, Guardian, but to him, he was still the same man. Just a human, who listened, who planned, who acted when no one else did. And in a galaxy full of war and fear, that was enough to become a legend.